Good evening, beautiful people of the world, and welcome back to yet another community watch party for the Pantheon development update stream. Wow. So I'm excited for this one, and I just woke up from a nap. Hopefully it's not that obvious because it was an amazing nap. And it was one of those naps where like I woke up and I legitimately thought that I had slept through the whole stream. Like, that's how good it was. I love those naps. I'm so glad that I'm here, and I'm glad that you guys are all here, because this is shaping up to be a pretty awesome update, just based on the teaser anyway that they posted. So just as a little preview of what we're going to be getting into tonight, they say they'll be covering NPC wandering, Merc and Spriggan jails, whatever that means. A new video from Jared. Jared. That name, I'm trying to remember which dev that is. I think he might be, I don't remember. Anyway, Codex implementation. So 2 weeks ago, they gave us a preview of the living Codex, of just what it looks like. And so now Jason Wyman, who is one of their senior programmers, I guess, is going to be talking about how they implement it into the game. And then they're going to give us some patch notes, which is sweet. And that seems new, just like, hey, here's like legitimately a list of what we've been working on. And then wrapping up with the new swag reveal. So it sounds like the merch shop is coming back as well, which is exciting. I'm curious to see what they've done differently this time, because that was a little bit of a spicy topic last time. So I think it's going to be a good one. We're going to be getting rolling here. Should be in just a few minutes. Despite my excitement, though, I will say, I'll mention right off the bat here that I'm gonna try to keep my comments during the stream to a minimum. I realize it's like a watch party and sometimes there's stuff to react to, but at the same time, like I read you guys' comments and stuff, and I see that I understand that if I'm talking all the time, you're not going to be able to understand what they're saying, and so, where's the fun in that? It's not just about me. I'm here to try to supplement it a little bit, and I'll just try to squeeze in my thoughts where maybe if, the guy's during a pause or whatever, I'll slip some things in here and there just as it comes to me, but in general, I'll try to save my thoughts till the end. So stick around after the dev stream is done. If I have anything that I kind of want to like add and expand on, I will do that after their stream. I might have to be taking some notes though, so that I don't forget what, because it sounds like they're going to be covering a wide variety of topics, which is good. But anyway, how's my hair looking? How's the beard looking these days? I decided that 2020 is the year of the beard for me. I gotta grow it out. If I'm gonna be playing like a dwarf in Pantheon, I need to have a respectable beard, and I've been paying a little bit more attention to it lately. So, not that you needed to know that. That's 2 minutes in counting. Although, let's see, I should refresh the stream. I should refresh their stream. Okay, they are live with their pre-stream. Sweet. So it should be getting going here in just a minute. I'm not gonna make you watch their ads. All right, sweet. So what's going on, guys? See, we got right before we jump in here. I see Don Lozon, Bradyville, Sleepy Boy 86, King Termite. Hey guys. Halifax, Arenalis. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out. I also made a few changes to my overlay here. Always trying to kind of like tweak things, always playing around with it. Still it's still pretty early on overall in my streaming journey, I would say. Like, I'm still mostly on YouTube right now, but definitely gonna be transitioning over to Twitch at some point. When pretty much, I'd say once the NDA has been lifted a little bit more and, you know, get a green light to stream the game on a more regular basis, I'm gonna be pushing hard on Twitch. But for now, still just getting familiar with things, always trying to like play around with little tools and tricks and trying to tweak it to make it enjoyable. Obviously, the for these watch parties, the main focus is going to be on their stream, but I wanted to kind of include you guys as well a little bit, because it is just we're just community. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm not a developer. We're all just fans here hanging out. We want to react to this update in real time and just talk about it just as fans. So that's what we're going to be doing here tonight, and it looks like with that, we're going to jump right in. Nice.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the January 30th, 2020 Pantheon Developers Stream. I am your host, David Schlau, aka Ronick, Senior Content Producer, and with me tonight is our producer, Mr. Ben Dean.
Hey everybody.
Also with me tonight,
it looks like the audio sync is a little bit off on.
Hey everyone.
I don't know if that's their stream or on our end.
We have here, but senior programmer, Mr. Jason Wyman.
Hey out there.
Welcome to the show, Jason. This is your first time here. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Should be fun.
Ben, what do we got on tap tonight?
We've got lots of goodies tonight, so we're going to
they're
start
quiet.
off with the Merc tonight. We mentioned it briefly on the last stream a couple of weeks ago, and tonight we're going to go a little bit deeper. Chris, you want to start us off?
Absolutely, yeah. So
Is that
we mentioned the Merc last week, and it's an area we've been working on as part of Project Fairtale. And we wanted to go a little bit further tonight and show you guys a little bit of the work in progress shots for this area. So first thing to say, keep in mind that a lot of these assets that make up these shots are what we refer to as gray box, meaning they're not final models, not final textures. But what they do is they create representative geometry and a representative intact play space that allows us to start layering in NPC population, gameplay systems, and the overall feel and flow of the area. And so I think it's probably worth saying that, you know, as we continue forward in development, because we're doing these bi-weekly streams, you're going to be seeing a lot more gray box environments, because not only is that indicative of how these games are developed typically, but also because we want to be getting things in front of you guys as much as we can, even when they're still in development to whatever degree. So, but as far as this area, we're really excited about it because it represents an opportunity for us to do a lot of environmental things, whether that's the climate and atmosphere system, whether that's things like traps, and lots of unexpected fun things with our NPCs as well. So again, just wanted to give you a little bit more sight on what we're putting together there.
I really like seeing that sort of thing because it's kind of what brings things to life. You know, you see the early stages and then you slowly see it starting to come together. And yes, we will definitely have some shots and more to show you as we progress in that zone. Joppa, you mentioned about populating with NPCs. We have made some progress with NPC AI as well. The NPCs themselves are sort of taking on a life of their own. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that you may have seen in the streams recently is relatively basic and kind of just kind of rickety NPC movement, where NPCs are either static or they may be walking, you know, along a predetermined path, and that's it. And so one of the things we've done over the last month or so is taken another look at our the AI that governs the NPC movements, and to try and take that system a few steps further. And what we have now is something much more natural, where NPCs are have a much wider array of movements that they can make within a given radius, as opposed to being limited to, you know, a single path here, then there, and back. Now they're able to move much more randomly, I guess you could say, within a predetermined area instead of only along certain paths. So what that's going to allow us to do is have NPCs that are operating on that kind of wander radius underlying tech, and then we're going to have NPCs that do still follow the routines, and some that are static. And it's just going to allow us to have a much more natural and varied landscape of NPC positioning and movements, and hopefully keep players a little bit more on their toes.
So last time we also discussed the Codex. We showed a bit of a work in progress from our own Jared, and he wanted to come tonight too. It's a little bit out of...
Oh, that's who Jared is.
Well, I guess it's not too late for him,
artist.
but instead he sent a video instead that we can share. So
Oh, God,
we
if
have
they're
been
gonna be
working more
gas
on the
bats.
Codex. We're actually going into some implementation of the Codex, and Jason will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But for now, let's hear what Jared has to say.
Thanks guys for that. Welcome to you guys all from Brisbane, Australia. It's very dark here at the moment. It's night time, so I should be sleeping, but I'm not. I'm here to show you a little bit more about our Codex and just some of the artwork involved in not only just creating the artwork, but implementing it into Unity project as well. So yeah, I'll take you through some of the real base functionality just really quickly before I hand you off to my brother Jason W. So here we go. Alrighty, cool. So when you're looking for things in the Codex, you need to be able to search for things really, really quickly, and that's the goal. So we've got this really handy sort by drop-down menu here. So I'll take you through that there. So when you click on this particular icon here, you will get a little drop-down, which gives you a number of categories, and that can scale depending on how many we add or take away. So we can sort by name, level, or type. And we'll mess with the transparency on these things too, but that's essentially very simple, very basic functionality in there, but also keeping with that very slender, but also robust peaked metal trim, which ties into the aesthetic with all the ability modification tabs here. So that's pretty much that part of that there. But then if you actually want to sort your abilities into groups, we've got these really handy tabs on the side here, which are player customizable. So we've got, green tabs, yellow
I
tabs,
see.
red tabs. We got all kinds of tabs in here, just depending on your flavor. But doing that, you could actually have your, offensive abilities, you could have defensive abilities, you could just, categorize them and sort by even those types there. So that'll be something handy for the player to get instant feedback on the types of abilities they have active at any given time in their Codex there. So there's more to it. Basically, we're looking at upgrading these abilities. It's not enough for us just to have an ability. We're going to add a little bit of a layer of complexity to it as well. So to that end, you'll pick up an ability by learning it, and then you'll be able to upgrade it. Not every ability will be upgradable. For instance, fishing. That's something that we could do that in the future, but it's not currently slated to be upgraded, and I'll take you through that a little bit later. But essentially, if you want to upgrade an ability, it will present with an icon, but it'll either have its mod slots empty, or they'll be partially filled, like you're seeing here. But if you can't upgrade an ability, you'll see it presenting like this. So in the case of fishing, it'll just be this nice, weathered and textured plate work here, tying in with the rest of the metallic aesthetic, clearly showcasing that you cannot upgrade that ability. So, but in the instance that you can, you'll see it like this. You'll mouse over this particular part of the device, and you'll see it will change the color when you hover over it. So it'll go to this more sheen-like metallic type thing. And when you do, if you click on it after you've moused over it, you will get something akin to this. Now bear in mind, this is still prototype, this is still in flux, and we're working out particulars and we're working out the vernacular as well to be consistent with mainstream MMO speech. So without further ado, I'll show you a little mock-up of how this is basically going to work. Please forgive the vernacular here, it hasn't been locked down yet as such. So after you've clicked on that, it'll bring up the modification dialog box essentially, and it'll show you the ability you're looking to modify, its current level of upgrade or not, and then it'll show you what will happen if you confirm by using an ability point here, as showcased and depicted by an ability point, which is like a glowing orb contrasting with the black there. So we can clearly see it's filled or not filled. So long story short, this will pop up when you say, look, healing hands. Do you want to spend an ability point to train up this ability? No, it'll just close down. Yes, you'll see some flashing confirmation here with the buttons between the two states. And then perhaps we'll get some particular particle effects here with this exploding and then it blasting into fill this void here. Yeah, that's pretty much that side of it. Other than that, we've got the different tabs, which are akin to the buttons that we've got here in terms of aesthetic. So these will take you to different places in your codex for all general abilities, special abilities, and it's future-proof for additional things that we want to add. I won't go into details with that, but there are many other parts to this codex that you'll see come online as we progress. In addition to that, you'll see that we've got the ability points and the number that you have available to spend to upgrade your abilities. So yeah, guys, it's all coming together. We've got a lovely book aesthetic going in, tied in with the stone, the steel, and the contrast with the parchment here on the side. Yeah, we're on our way, guys, and without further ado, I'll hand you off to
that level of
Mr. Jason
visual
Wayman.
polish
Take
for
it away,
pre-alpha
Jace.
is very unusual, for better or for worse. Like I think it's for better.
So that's
but
a good look at the ability system, or sorry, at the well, partially the ability system, but at the codex. Jason, you've been working pretty hard getting that implemented. How's that experience been for you?
Oh, it's fun. I mean, putting together a system like that isn't too complicated when it comes to like the entirety of building an MMO, but doing it right so that it's fast and is super responsive and allows us to do a lot of the other extension stuff that Joppa's got planned takes a little bit more time, right? Making sure that we're good and we're right and that we've got that whole path ready so that we can do all of the crazy things that were both in that video and that I'm sure Joppa will talk about now and later on. Yeah, but it was a fun process of just switching it. For anybody that hadn't seen before, we had a codex that looked somewhat like that, a spell book that looked kind of like that before, and then we switched to a list mode one where you could kind of scroll through things, and then we went with this other option, which I think is kind of the best of both, because we can scroll through with the mouse wheel and snap through thousands of abilities really fast if we want, or search through them and filter them and find them all. We've got all of the bonuses and benefits of that list view mode that we had, but in this nice presented book where it makes sense and you can really see what's going on with all your abilities.
You hit on a point there too. It is so incredibly fast just trying it out in game now. It's really, really efficient. I gotta give it hats off to you and the rest of the programming team for really making that swift and responsive.
Yeah, the goal there was to make sure that there's no delay no matter how slow the person system is, right? To make sure that we're not only running fast on high-end systems, but that we run fast on low-end systems, and that we don't cause problems with our UI. I've seen plenty of games in the past really suffer and struggle because they had just a little bit of sloppy UI code or a little bit of bad UI code, and it completely killed the performance of the game. So we really want to avoid that in Pantheon, and we're doing that.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because I've talked to some of the other people who've been making these games for a while too, and they've mentioned that very point, that UI can often be the thing that slows things down more than anybody would expect. So it's cool to hear that you're on top of it, keeping that in mind right from the get-go too. Chris, what would you say, working with Jason, what would you say would have been, to put you on the spot, would have been one of the most crazy requests that you've made of him in terms of the abilities?
I mean, probably just the sheer amount of things I've asked him to do, like in total. I think the summation of what the ability tool that Jason's put together is capable of doing and all the different things it governs, not just the abilities themselves, you know, the how much damage, how much healing, the damage over time, what type of damage, and all those things, but it's also getting into like the conditional layers. You know, if this spell lands on this target and that target has this effect already on it, then the spell needs to know to do this. And then you factor in the ability sets as well for NPCs and all the different kind of logic and conditional layers that govern that as well. I think it's just the sheer amount of things that the tool is capable of doing, and then all the improvements on top of that for sure. But I think the robustness of the conditional components of the ability system and tool is probably the most impressive to me, I think, for sure.
Jason,
Jason's just a super smart dude as well, so
yeah.
he's able to take requests and kind of make them go even further and be even better, and then, you know, having a lot of ideas of his own as well that have been really, really solid. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've sat in on a couple of work sessions where you guys have been working together, and it's been pretty cool. We do have a question coming up in chat here. Christo US 82 asks, can we expect to have abilities, skills, quests, notepad, and everything else inside of the Codex? Yeah,
good question. That's the plan. Like, the Codex will be your one-stop shop as much as possible for all the things that you've mentioned. The only thing potentially that, or I should say, the things that you will potentially see outside of the Codex are the Keeper's Tome, which is the perception-specific tome of keeping that has enough of its own unique components that it will probably feel better to have it in its own standalone place. And then the acclamation system, the way that you're the place in the UI where you're applying your different acclamation related things might be in its own space as well. But other than those two things, those are the only things off the top of my head that would live outside of the Codex.
And we're gonna take some more questions later on in the show too. But Jabba, they're asking, they want you to discuss a little bit more about ability points, how they're acquired. Is there a cap?
That's a good question.
Can you get
I thought I had missed that.
Yeah. So the modification system for abilities is kind of inspired as a hybrid of WoW's talent tree and EverQuest's alternate advancement. And I'll try to explain where the inspiration comes from each of those places. One of the things we really, really like about the talent tree in WoW is that every time you level up, you're getting that point that allows you to take your class a little bit further. So the way that you're able to incrementally improve different abilities or aspects of your class every time you level is really nice. And it kind of provides that extra layer of satisfaction and, reaching for things you're excited about as you level up. The alternate advancement inspiration is that it's providing a level of advancement or a type of advancement for your character that kind of goes beyond the normal leveling curve, if you will. And so the way alternate advancement worked is that once you reached max level, you could continue to gain experience beyond that. And every time you filled a full bar of experience at max level, you would get a point to spend in this alternate advancement system, which again would incrementally improve certain aspects of your class and your gameplay. And so the way that this particular system is meant to work is that it's you are going to get a point or more every time you level up. And so there's going to be a source of these points that are coming just naturally through leveling up. But those points are not going to be enough to cover all of the possible points that you could spend upgrading your abilities. Because while the first pip in the upgrade might only cost 1 point or 2 points, the second pip might cost 3 or 4. The third one, the final one, might cost 4, 6, 8, even more. And obviously the upgrades will grow in significance. But where we wanted to differentiate a little bit from something like talent trees is that, like we've said before, we're not making a specialization based approach to classes where, you know, you're and to use WoW again as an example, you're not an arms warrior or a protection or a fury warrior. You're in Pantheon, you are a warrior. And these ability modifications are meant really to represent kind of the full culmination of what your class is meant to be. And so in that sense, you will eventually be able to have all of these upgrades to you with the right amount of time invested. The key difference, though, is that you're not going to be able to get all the points you need to fill these out just by leveling up. And so either during your leveling up process or after you've reached max level, a lot of these points will be gained through questing. They could actually be granted to players in the forms of droppable loot as well. And so we want there to be multiple ways that you're actually accumulating all the points you need to invest in modifying and kind of fully evolving your ability arsenal.
I feel like we could do a whole show on this.
Yeah.
I think we're probably going to end up doing that. And then, but
Yep.
a really important question though before we go any further is Triple D wants to know, Jason, how long have you been growing that massive beard of yours?
This is like, I don't know, 2 months worth.
Couple of weeks.
It grows really fast.
I got some catching up to do on you.
I guess it's
rare
the
that I
year of the
shave,
beard
too.
for
My wife
him
gets
too.
mad every
Jeez.
time I shave.
The other thing I wanted to say real quick about that system is that, not about shaving. I don't have any advice or thoughts on shaving at the moment. But when you get into things like epic abilities, that's when this ability modification system takes on a new dimension and gets really exciting, because the kinds of special currency, if you will, that you need to modify or upgrade epic abilities will likely be something different from ability points. Ability points are kind of the base kind of special currency you use to upgrade your core abilities. But when you get into epic abilities, then you can expect that currency to be much more difficult to obtain, and those abilities much more difficult to upgrade.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, all these guys, they're putting my
Ben,
beard
wanna
to
take more
shame.
questions, or you
Although
wanna
at least
move on?
mine's not
well,
gray.
We
I
still
will
have
say
one
that.
more segment
Like,
at least. I did want to talk to Jason just a little bit more, though. Jason, you've been with us for quite some time. In fact, I believe you were on the original team when we first started back in the day. How would you, and you've also got quite a bit else under your belt as well, how would you sort of describe your experience with Pantheon thus far?
Oh, that's a really open-ended question.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit broad.
It's been really good, though. I mean, overall, it's been kind of a blast. It's been, just going back, I remember the first day Brad talked about this. He's like, hey, come over, let's go out to lunch real quick. I want to talk about something. And he started running this whole project idea by me. And his first thing was, of course, multicolored mana. It's like the #1 thing you talked about that day. But
Yeah, I remember that.
It's been a blast going on ever since. And working with a bunch of guys on a project that everybody's super passionate about is just really, really exciting. And also being in on an MMO really early on was nice too, because I'd worked on a lot of MMOs before, but they were always kind of in production, either had already launched or were getting close to launching by the time I got onto them. So this was a somewhat new experience for me too, getting to be on so early and make some of the, or at least push towards some of the decisions that I knew would avoid problems later on, after watching a bunch of problems in other games and working on them and struggling with those. So it's been, I mean, it's been a blast, to be honest. Like I got really nothing bad to say about it. It's just been fun, and seeing just how fast everything goes and how engaged the community is really awesome. Like, I mean, even when I was working on games that were released, the community interaction was, I'd say almost nothing compared to this. There was a little bit going on, but not nearly what we've got here, and I really like it. So
we got a cool community. Yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah, working on MMOs is quite a bit different than working on other games too, wouldn't you say? So it's kind of nice to have somebody on board who has a bit of that experience as well.
Yeah, it's a lot different, but it's a lot more fun too. Like, people always say, don't try to build an MMO, but I think you should always try to build an MMO because they're a blast.
Yeah, there's a lot of components. It's cool. I sit and wonder at you guys. The programming team is just fantastic. I can't keep up with the stuff that you guys.
I used to do that before I learned how to code. Then I found out it's just easy. You just have to know the. I don't know
the language.
I don't know how to explain it. Like everything seems hard until you know how to do it, right?
True. Fair enough. All right. So our next segment is on the patch notes. As we make the game, we have our own internal patch notes, and I believe that Chris has taken stock of some of those that we can share today.
We need to make a video for this, like some sort of logo pops up. Patch notes.
Patch notes. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Why don't you get on that, Dave?
Patch notes.
Little musical intro. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need our own little corner band. Actually, that's what we need.
A corner band. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So first of all, I do need to give credit where credit's due. This idea. It's not necessarily a new idea. We've done this before, but what instigated us doing it now and kind of revamping it was a suggestion that Bandred made, one of the community members, who's very passionate, very outspoken, and is a huge help. We love passionate intensity, and you can't be vocal enough about the game. It's a big help to us. And so anyway, that was a suggestion that came directly from him, and so kudos to you, Vandred. But let me just read some of these off, and we'll probably kind of evolve how we do this in terms of making it more visual as well, so you're not just listening, but you can always go back and what are you doing?
Doing a dramatic voice.
That's notes.
I know, we need like a jingle and a stinger splash
That's all
screen.
I needed. All right, so here we go. Massive client-side performance improvements. Remove nearly all frame rate spikes due to memory allocation. Massive UI performance improvements. Refactored and improved the scrolling combat text.
Well,
I'm really excited.
Yeah, let's pause for a second. Just on that first massive client-side improvement, or performance improvements, let's put a big massive underscore under massive, because it was huge. Like, there were some areas where we were getting, on decent machines, we were getting like 20 frames per second. Now we're just popping like 240. It's awesome. Those improvements were they're not marginal. They were massive.
That's the programming guys, right?
Yeah. What do you do, Jason?
Jason, what did you say? Kyle kind of sleuthing that one and getting that one shored up.
Yeah, he was dealing with a couple complex things in there. I'm not sure which one caused the biggest jump, though. There were just a bunch of different little things going on, and he addressed them all and found ways to optimize them, which is awesome.
Pathfinding improvements related to chasing and line of sight and spell casting. The implementation of the new NPC wander zones talked about earlier. I'm not going to read the next one.
Don't read that one. I was surprised that one was there.
But you,
I was just gonna say, I hope we could. I wish
you know what that
I
is,
wish
and
we
I'll
could
make sure
read. I wish we could be
to
reading
mention
these.
that this is the one we skipped over.
That's the Convo dwarf model in game now, right? The model we based on Convo.
No,
Oh.
no, it's not. NPC auto attack getting in sync fixes. So you may have noticed in some of the streams when NPCs would begin auto attacking, if they were a group of them, they were auto attacking for a while, they would kind of get onto this synced heartbeat where they were just all swinging in exact unison, and it looked bad. And so we've gotten that fixed. We fixed a group health bug, one that we found during the co-stream. Same with the spell aura bug that we saw in the co-stream. We've done a complete replacement of the Codex. There's been several tweaks to class abilities, including the entire ability upgrade system. We've had an update to the Entity Inspector tool, which is what allows us to see all the information related to NPCs in the game, their health, their armor class, their stats, really anything that you'd want to know about an NPC while testing. We have the Wizard UI updated. We've made some tweaks again, just based on some of the testing and some of the feedback, to make the visibility of the wizard UI components more easy to see, and just kind of cleaned those up a little bit. We've had a faction system update, and so some of the code governing the faction matrix and all that. I know Jason did some work on that, which is fantastic. We've had fixes to auras, to the auto attack system. Had some pretty significant fixes to damage calculations and randomization. Jason, that was you, right? That we found out that the minimum and maximum damage range wasn't being factored in.
Yeah, we weren't getting much randomization at all in our combat, and it was a simple fix, but something that wasn't under test yet, and now it's under test.
That one makes me really happy. And then as far as like some of the world stuff and world creation, we've had lots of updates and work being done on the Merc, the play space, and Collision. There's been ongoing work in Fairthale as well, in an area called Oldwood. And so you've seen a portion of Oldwood in the Project Fairthale kind of teaser trailer we put out a little while back, but that's just a very small section of the entirety of that Oldwood area. And so there's lots of work going on there. Continuing to flesh out the world map as a whole. I think I referenced that last week about taking another look at the level ranges and the level spread. I could talk a long time about this, just philosophizing a little bit, but basically we're working to visualize in a gray box way the entirety of the King's Reach continent, with all of the gridded zones connected together, and able to just visualize everything completely as an entire continent. And just so you know, that's one of our criteria approaching alpha, is we want to have King's Reach as a whole
That
up
is
and
important
running,
to note.
and when we get there. And so we're making really, really nice strides towards that goal. And there's a few more world related, but probably going to hold off on those for now. But that just gives you just a taste of some of the things. And I wasn't even able to pull, I wasn't able to connect with Robert Crane, our other senior programmer, or Todd, or him, or Justin. There's several others I could think of too that I could pull from, but this is just a sample. There's just a massive amount of work being done, and so proud of this team and excited about the kind of progress we're making each and every day. So love this feature too. I think patch notes are going to be really fun to do going forward.
Yeah.
And we'll have these in the we'll list these in the producer's letter when we.
Yeah, I'll throw them in at the bottom of the producer's letter too, so you can read them on your own too.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Except for that hidden one, that secret mystery one, which we'll keep teasing about.
Well, the stuff, I mean, Chris is talking about, some of the stuff that's in game, and it's going to be really exciting once everybody starts to see it. We did a little tease of the Merc today, but like the work that Bruno's been doing on the fog stuff looks amazing, and particularly in that zone, because that zone is entrenched in like a murky darkness. So it's going to be awesome when people see that.
Greg Mike 2227, there is going to be a producer's letter. Believe next week we're aiming for.
Yeah, that gives it starts to give you an idea of just how many different
All right,
moving
so
parts there are in MMO development. Like, it's so complex. I can't even really. I don't know how Joppa juggles all those balls at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's one more thing. Actually, this thing is a lot your thing. You've been working hard at it. Mike Butler has been working really hard at it. There's been quite a bit of work put into it, but why don't you make the announcement?
Yeah, so and kudos to Mike, who's really kind of spearheaded this operation. I've just kind of been working, doing some designs. We are officially reopening the store, and we have some cool new designs. Actually, I'm wearing the Ranger shirt right now.
Hold on.
He stood up.
I switched to the store screen just as you were standing up. All right, go ahead, stand up.
Oh, I gotta stand up.
Stand up.
There we go. I'm wearing the Ranger shirt. So this will be the initial wave of merch that's available, and we have some T-shirts with the logos on
Those
it.
look
some T-shirts with each of the
way
class
better than
symbols
last
and
time.
the logo on it. There's some really cool looking mugs, and some travel mugs and some stickers, which unfortunately I
travel
don't think
mug.
I included in there, the stickers. But the
Yeah, you
stickers-
did.
Oh, no, there's a sticker.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Yep.
So that's
Nice.
yeah, there you go. So that can pop on your laptop, and this is like I said, the first wave of the merch coming, and we're excited because everybody's.
I
asking
like
about
that they
it for a
include the
while.
classes.
And we're happy to kind of get you guys what you want here, and so yeah, this is the merch wave 1.
Yeah, so if you do want to check it out, we are hosted on Redbubble store. So just go to pantheonmmo.com. There is a store link right at the top.
Oh, is it
Just
working
click on
now?
that and you can get right there. So that is live as of now.
Nice. Cool.
Yes.
So we do have a few more. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and don't forget to remind them that all the proceeds from the merch goes directly toward
Thank
the
you.
development of the game.
Yeah.
So 100% of that is going funneled right back into what you
You
want.
got it. All right, so we have a bit of time for a Q&A, maybe about 10 minutes or so. Do we have any questions popping up?
Yeah,
Do we
I
have any
actually,
questions?
we have, of course we do. We have a few that were posted on the forums. Theric wants to know particularly about the Merc. What if, and we talked a little bit about this, what if any climates will be present in the Merc?
It's a good question.
His question goes a little longer, but maybe you could just start with that, CP.
I don't want to say.
Yeah,
I want
that's
that
fair.
to be something that you experience. I think saying that there will be climates in the Merc to account for is probably the best thing we can say at this point, and not spoil it. And I just super quickly want to give just a nod to that. A lot of us here on this team, we watch a lot of the community content. We listen to what you guys are saying, and I know there's always that conversation going on about, are they showing enough? Are they telling enough? These 2-week things, is there enough content really to talk about every 2 weeks? And you have to understand that, like, when we do these streams, when we talk about these things, we're not exhausting everything that we could talk about. We're not showing everything that we could show. And one of the most important things for us to do right now is manage how much of the game we're putting in front of you, because even though it feels really good and exciting, get that information to see those things now, it does have an effect on launch day. And that doesn't mean that we're not committed to showing and telling as much as we can, but we also want to be good stewards of the information and the facts that we hold for your sake.
It's like my mom always used to say, if you eat your beans now, you'll ruin your dinner.
Says the man who withholds all the beans.
I said nothing about it.
If you eat your
Jabba
beans
held
now,
those.
you'll ruin your dinner.
It's true though. That's
Your mom
So
didn't
here-
say that to you? What, you didn't
I
eat
wonder.
beans?
I
What's wrong
wonder
with
if they
beans?
were watching
Here's
the
another
stream I did the other day, because that's
question,
exactly what we were
from
talking
the
about.
forums, and CP, you talked about this elsewhere, but the general public didn't really get a chance to hear what you had to say about it, so I wanted to get it back in front of you. Random Rob 82 wants to talk a little bit about zone lines. In the last stream, there was some talk about Fairthale encompassing what was akin to a zone, but that there was a distinct difference from a subzone to Fairthale, which would include the Merc. Can you talk a little bit about subzones and what that means for us? Exactly.
Okay. I wouldn't read too much into the term. It is a standalone zone. It doesn't really have any special qualification to it. Typically, though, when we refer to a zone as a subzone internally, it's because it exists inside of a greater zone. And so just like Halnir Cave is a subzone of Avenger's Pass, in the same way the Merc exists inside of Fairthale, it is a standalone zone and will feel like a standalone zone.
But like, there's only one way to get to that zone, I think is what he
Big
means.
Dog Chris wants to know, could you provide some insight into the decision not to have coin weight and also have it auto change to a higher domination when you hit 100?
I think the decision not to have coin weight probably best is answered by saying that these games are made up of a myriad of different mechanics, and there is a way that having myriads of different mechanics all piled into the same game and same experience can, after a time, be fatiguing or feel cumbersome. And so any time that we look at a system and say probably won't do that, or probably aren't going to do it that way, it's because we're taking into account every single thing that a player is going to have to be accounting for at any given time, be that specific gameplay related systems with things like things, sorry, I got distracted there. Whether that be gameplay systems like dealing with the environment, or combat, or things like that, versus all of the general gameplay systems that are going on, movement speed, travel. We felt like that with all the things that players were needing to account for, having something in there like coin weight, not that we're taking out weight, not that we're taking out the fact that your gear and your inventory and those things will have weight, but coin specifically was an extra granular layer to that equation that we just felt like wasn't needed. It's similar, I mean, maybe this helps, maybe it doesn't, but it's similar to when you're designing NPC abilities, let's say, or you're laying out a zone and you're looking at all the different things NPCs can do. The more stuns you add, like, hey, stun's a cool ability, stun makes things hard, let's give it a stun, and let's give that one a stun, and that one, like, after a while you have to really pay attention to how many things can stun, because after a while it starts to not get fun. And in the same way, not a one-to-one, but have to pay attention to all the little systems, mechanics in the micro systems and micro mechanics, and make sure that they're all kind of coming together to create an enjoyable experience, and not one of tedium and unnecessary tedium and things like that. So that's why we made that decision. Of course, we could change it down the road, and some of those things testing will give some more insight too. So that's enough on that. Probably went too much into the weeds on that one.
No, I think any kind of explanation they'd appreciate. Hashtag Science wanted to know about the shirts, if they actually are size appropriate, and yes, they are. I have a medium on, and that's generally what I wear, and it fits me pretty well. So just FYI, if you're planning on ordering, get your correct size. Back to questions about the game. Sorry, I lost my place.
I did see a question about white damage, and yes, white damage will be significant. The fix to the damage range on weapons is significant, not only for white damage, but it also governs the amount of damage you're doing with your abilities as well. And so we weren't seeing the kind of randomization we wanted to see in ability usage and in white damage. And so it was a fix, but it also, yes, white damage is going to be a significant portion of your DPS for a damage dealer of that kind.
Okay, Access Denies wants to know, are there any plans for permanent consequences for certain actions in game? Example, enchanting armor and trying to put one too many enchants on it and having it permanently destroyed, or maybe something quest related.
I don't know that I really have anything definitive to say on that just yet. I mean, I definitely think that that's a good kind of rule of thumb, to not only think of the positive benefits or things you can do, but also are there chances for consequences or negatives, and weighing those things. So we'll have to put that one aside though for now as far as definitive.
Okay, Ben, did you have one? I thought you said. Okay.
Nope, we probably have time for about one or two more if we have them.
Yeah. Okay. Can we talk a little bit? Sorry, I lost my place again. They were asking about when we're going to see the Dark Mirror and the other models that we haven't seen yet in game. Do we have a timeline, and if they're being worked on?
Yeah, definitely want to get those to you guys. I mean, I think even just a good opportunity to say, Ben, it would be nice to, even if it's just some screenshots of those new models that we have, it'd be great to be able to show those, because they're awesome.
Yeah,
they really
are.
Sweet.
The Archive looks amazing. The new Archive is out of control.
Yeah, But as far as playable and in game, it's definitely on our priority list on this march to pre-alpha 5. We're doing our best.
We'll try to get those screenshots in for next time then, maybe. Pending approval.
Take a note.
Yes.
So it seems like they've been made, but they haven't been implemented in game, I think is what they're saying.
Crafting wise and guild in general wise, we can't figure out how that can't be a thing. So I guess he's asking about guild banks. Have we put any thought into that yet, or is there any philosophy there?
I don't know that we've gone down that route very far, have we?
No, we haven't. I mean, I think we'd all want to see something like that, a guild hall or, something like that for the guilds. But no, we haven't really gone into it too much internally yet.
Okay. So this is
last question. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay. I guess we've kind of talked a little bit about this, but maybe we can go a little further. Mordo on the boards wants to know, are we expecting seamless transition between zones or hard zoning process with the loading screen? So obviously, we have what we have now. And
we want zoning to be quick. We're doing a lot of work to try to make zoning quick, but we are a zone-based game. It's pretty deeply woven into the game design philosophy in the sense of we don't have leashed mobs. Mobs are gonna, once they aggro you, and unless you have an ability or something that you can break that lock, then they're on you until you're dead or you zone. And I mean, granted, there's ways we could have a seamless world and still have something akin to zone lines in the sense of just breaking that mob attachment. But for right now, we are a zone-based game, and we plan to stay a zone-based game. But we want those zone lines to be seamless in the sense that you're going to be able to see into the area that you're moving into. Of course, we're going to try to stay away from those artificial kind of T and L shaped, type things. But yes, there will be zone lines. We just want to make them quick as we can.
Great.
Well, Jason, first of all, I'd like to thank you very much for coming on tonight. It was a real pleasure to have you. Hopefully we can get you on again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully there's a bunch of programmer questions next time.
Yeah,
we'll make sure that you get some. Yeah.
It's all good.
And thank you to all of you for coming out tonight, our beloved fans. And just a reminder that Pantheon is a crowdfunded game. If you haven't made a pledge yet, head on over to pantheonmmo.com. Click on that pledge button and see what you like. There are also investment opportunities available. If you'd like to learn more, please send an email to contact@visionaryrealms.com. Thanks again, all, for coming out, and have a great night.
Thanks so much, everybody. It was a lot of fun.
Ciao.
All right, sweet. I'm gonna mute that. Okay. Like I said, I'm gonna kind of wrap up real quick with my just kind of first impressions on what they talked about here, because there was quite a bit, and I know they touched on it. Joppa touched on it there toward the end, how I think it's a lot harder than you may think to put one of these streams together, because for those of you that don't know, just a couple of days ago I had held like a community stream on my channel. We got together with a bunch of other fans. We just kind of just talked about Pantheon, specifically these newsletter streams and stuff and just the overall media and marketing that they've been putting out. And we talked a lot about like how I do not envy the job at all of having to decide what to include. Like, what do you show? Because once you put it out there on the internet, like, it's out there. You can't take it back. And so I get why they would kind of want to err on the side of caution, because you can always, like I said, it's a lot easier to keep the secrets now and then choose when the most strategic time is to like let the secret out of the bag, rather than just putting it all out there, because once the internet grabs a hold of it, it's gone, But the problem with that is that just the way that a lot of people think is that like if they can't see it, it's not happening, it doesn't exist, which is not how reality works, but that's just the way that people think. And so, you know, if you're not showing enough, people think that the development is just stagnant, nothing's happening. But I feel like in this stream in particular, I feel like this was the right amount. I feel like they struck a good balance because it was encouraging to me personally, and it seemed like to you guys in chat as well, that it's like it's enough to give you the idea that, okay, like, yeah, like this, there is a lot of really good stuff happening behind the scenes, but at the same time it's not like spoiling the whole game. Like, it makes you want to play it more, not like, well, what's the point in playing now because I already know everything, you know what I mean? So it's such a tough, I don't know exactly what the right answer is, and I don't think there is, because there's no, like I was talking about in the stream the other day, there's no playbook for how to crowdfund an MMO like this. Like, it just hasn't really been done, and so there's no hard and fast answer as to like how much should they communicate, because there's just too many pros and cons. But this time, I feel like that was a really good stream. They covered some good topics, such as, let's go back to my notes here. Right off the bat, they showed the gray box images, which I was a little surprised. I was a pleasant surprise that they showed some gray boxing, and they said that they wanted to show more of that type of thing because it gives you just a little. It gives you a little teaser, and I think that is it is something that they should do more often, because it makes it feel a little bit more real. But you know, it's still very rough. Like, I know that all the disclaimers in the world about, like, you know, it's a work in progress is not finished. But I don't think anybody would really think when it's all like a wireframe like that. Hopefully nobody thinks that that's what it's gonna look like at the end. So, you know, it shows, like, undeniably, yeah, there's stuff being done. It still looks like, you know, there's still a lot of work to be done, and maybe there is. But, you know, it's a matter of applying those textures, and however long that takes, maybe it doesn't take long at all, but that would make a big difference when you actually, like, are in game, I would think. So that was a nice little touch that they added. And then there was the bit about the spell book, the Codex, which I think that was the most interesting part to me, because they showed it a little bit last time, and they kind of evolved on it now, or expanded on it. So with the way that the abilities work, I will say though that the way that they explained it to me, to us, it wasn't just me. The way that they explained it made it sound almost too straightforward, was, I think, my first impression. In that, and I know somebody in chat said it as well, that the way that the Living Codex was originally pitched, which I understand plans change, but the impression that I was under is that it would be a way to customize your abilities to a certain degree. I understand you don't want like a cleric that is like capable, depending on how you specialize. You could be a tank, you know, cleric, or a DPS heavy cleric, or a healing cleric, and you can fill like all of those roles on one class. Like, that's just not how the game works. I get that. That's good. But I also would ideally like for there to be a way where, like, if my healing spell is different from another cleric's healing spell, and not just in the sense that, like, rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, which is the impression that I got from this stream, where it's like, you know, you level up, you get your ability points, and then you put, you know, ability points into the abilities to, like, level them up, essentially, which is not really an entirely novel idea. I think the idea that he had of getting those ability points, not just from leveling, like through quests or even loot or something, like that's cool. But the concept of just putting ability points into an ability to make it better is nothing new. So, and again, it was not at all a comprehensive review of how the system works. Like they said, they probably could do a whole entire show just on how that works. So, you know, leave the option open maybe of more different features being added to it later. But right off the bat, it's cool that you can rank up your abilities, but if the progression for ranking up a particular spell is the same as everybody else of that class, then it still doesn't differentiate you a whole lot from somebody else of that given class. I understand that like, okay, where do you draw that line where, you know, you want your class to be unique, but obviously not everybody can be completely unique. And so, yeah, you know, if somebody, as they're leveling up, they decide maybe they do want to put more points into healing up front, and so their healing spell, even if they're the same level, maybe their healing spell is going to be a little bit different of somebody else's healing spell at that level. So, you know, you want to differentiate yourself a little, but you don't want to have such a wide margin that that allows for things like, you know, you get these weird builds like a wizard that is, you know, healing or tanking or something like that is outside of their normal role. So we'll see how that plays out, where they decide to draw that line. But it the Living Codex overall, it looks really good visually. It seems like there's a lot of quality of life features already built in that, like I was saying earlier, is very unusual for a game in this phase in pre-alpha, like which is great. And again, like that's another one of those pros and cons where people might say that like a lot of time must have been put into implementing those quality of life features, and so like, you know, why do that now when you can just add that in later? You know, get the game out the door sooner and then add the more, like, you know, it's not necessary, it's more optional, but it's just quality of life things that, you know, that could be added on later. And I think that's a fair point. There, at the same time though, there's something to be said for like doing things differently. Like that will be impressive, I think, to a lot of people that maybe haven't been following things as closely when they log in to Pantheon, even in alpha, and if it's all like polished and it's running smoothly and it's already got all this quality of life, like that's gonna make a game stand out to these people that are playing dozens of, you know, different games. Like the market is saturated basically. There's so many games out there. You have to do something to stand out, to make people go like, wow, this game is different, and then that, you know, that gets them intrigued and engaged. So maybe it'll pay off. Like it definitely it takes time, and it definitely pushes some people's patience, but it very well could pay off in the end, that like putting a game out there that like in alpha, beta, and launch is just so much further ahead than most games at that stage, because each development team gets to choose where they draw those lines. And so, you know, if it's their choice to, like, they really want it to be like they don't want to put it out there because until it's like really, really crisp and clean. That's their choice as artists. It's basically, it's art. Like it, you know, if you get any painter, sculptor, any type of artist out there, musician, drawer, like I think can relate to the idea that like if you're really like, this is a passion project for them. If you're like really, really into your work, you don't want anybody to see it until it's like done, because none of us, no other fan of Pantheon has the same vision that Joppa does and the rest of the team has. None of us really know what it's going to look like at launch. And so, you know, people, like I said, people to varying degrees have the ability to like, okay, I understand that, you know, what I'm looking at is not comprehensive. Some people, like I was saying earlier, like they're like, oh, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist, which, like I said, that's just not how the world works. But again, like, you know, so some people can understand, okay, yeah, I get that there's more things coming down the line. I might not know exactly what it is, but I get that there's more to it. But, you know, the dev teams at the end of the day, they're the only ones that actually have that vision. And so it's hard, and that makes it even more difficult. Like I said, like they don't want to spoil too much. It's an art form. They want there to be surprises and secrets and that wow like factor, not wow World of Warcraft. Wow, like when you see it, it just makes you go wow, because it's just so much more than you could even have imagined. But in order for them to do that, they kind of have to, like, you know, block some people out to just let them work on it and make it exactly how they want it to be before it is released into the world. So again, like finding that line is there's no easy answer for where that line is. So overall though, really good job on this stream. I like how they're, like I was saying earlier, like I'm still kind of getting into the streaming world on my own, constantly trying to evolve my own stream, and it's clear that they are doing the same. You know, they're bringing different devs in, the overlays changing, they're adding like new things with the patch notes. Like that was a great idea. Like I said, I think I would have liked to have been able to read along with him, but that was another one of those things that, like I said, like it just like it makes it feel more real. Like it just feels good to hear those things. So that was a good implementation. Adding the gray box images in there, like they're really upping the value of these streams, I think. So good on them. I enjoyed it. Hope you guys did too. But with that, I think now is a good time to wrap up. Once again, guys, thank you for hanging out with me. I know you have your choice in Twitch streams. We thank you for flying with BazgrimTV. So with that, have a good night. I'll see you next time.